Digital versus analog collage. Is one of them art and the other one isn't? Is one somehow better than the other? Today I'm going to talk about this because right now I'm doing digital collage and I am in a collage group online, of course, and it recently came up. Someone posted in one of the, I'm in two groups, someone posted in one of the groups, oh, I didn't realize this group was for digital collage, I'm out of here. And then in the comments, everyone was debating whether or not digital collage was a valid art form. And I have done both and am currently using digital collage for a number of reasons. And so I thought it would be a perfect time to talk about how they're different, how they're similar, and why either one is completely valid. If I want to make an analog collage, the first thing I have to do is find the images that I want to use. I have already gone through a ton of National Geographic magazines that I had and saved pages with images that I liked at the time. That doesn't mean that I had something in mind for them. It just meant that there was something on there that I thought was usable. I also have some pages from old books and maybe a few other magazines. But generally speaking, I don't think of all of these images that I have saved as all being sort of free to use in a way that I could possibly resell or publish somehow or something like that, because specifically a lot of these magazines and books are not that old, and all of these photographs were made by artists who sold them to a specific place for a specific use. And the law around collage art is that when you use the photograph, it has to be like the final product has to transform it in such a way that it isn't recognizable as the original image. And that sounds to me almost impossible sometimes. I will show you later some examples of some favorite collages that I've made that I absolutely do not think pass that rule, unfortunately. But nonetheless, when I'm making collage, it's for me. It doesn't really matter if the images are maybe not legal to use in some way. I'm just doing something that I think is fun, and I'm making something that I am not trying to sell or publish in any way. So I think that it's okay to do it this way. The next challenge of analog collage, which is totally fine with me, is cutting all the little tiny bits and pieces out of the image that you want to use. I really try to make my images really clean. There are some people and there are techniques where you kind of tear things up or you cut a shape around the piece of the image that you want to use. That's not really my style. I like it when I see other people do work with that, but it isn't the way that I do things. I like to cut really clean lines and create something that looks like a photograph that doesn't make a lot of sense maybe sometimes, or that does make a lot of sense because I've rearranged everything in such a way that it makes an entirely new image. It's true that when you're working in digital collage, you don't have to search for physical pictures or print things out if you're going to go that way. Whenever I'm looking for a photograph in the stock photo websites, I end up downloading multiples of usually the same subject just to see which one is going to work best for me. And then what I have started doing is organizing them in files on my computer. So I literally have a file for giraffes and a file for seahorses. And ultimately, I use what I need in that particular composition. I never really know exactly what I'm doing. I always just have a vague idea, or I think I really want to do something with this one particular photograph that I really like, or a certain element. So I go as I go along. And another thing that I've noticed is that While most of the time Figma will really nicely remove the background of a photograph for you, once in a while it will screw up and either leave a chunk of something on there that you need to go into Photoshop to remove manually, or it will take something away that you need. So for example, when I was looking for a photograph of the chandelier, I went and looked specifically for some photographs that had the chain that attaches it to the ceiling very, very visible in the image, so that if it disappeared, the chain in the image I wanted to use, I could patch it together with a chain from another chandelier that was more distinct in the photograph. But fortunately, I didn't have to do that. Another really great thing that I can do when I'm working digitally that I can't do when I'm working analog is I can adjust the color and the exposure and things like that of the photographs that I'm using, so that, for example, if one of the photographs is really, really bright and you can tell that it's taken outdoor in like broad daylight, and the other one has a little bit of a shadow, like maybe it was taken in the shade or an overcast day, you can try to balance them out. Or if one of them is a really, really, really overly warm tone and the other one is much cooler, again, you can balance them out so that they look like they're supposed to be in the same place, which is all I want. Just little subtle things that make everything look a little bit more cohesive when I put it together. This example that I did just for you is actually coming together really, really easily. All of the backgrounds are coming off of the photographs really clean, and I don't have to do any removing things or cutting photos into two pieces so that they can overlap properly with another part of a photograph. Those are things that I do have to do sometimes in digital collage. And honestly, that's the kind of stuff that is a lot easier in analog collage, where you only have to make a slice in the paper to tuck something together. And I know that one of the reasons that people talk about whether or not digital collage is real collage or if it's art is because they think that it's a lot easier and you can do so many things you can't do in analog collage. And on the one hand, that is true, but on the other hand, there are things that are much harder to do with Photoshop rather than scissors or an X-Acto knife. Another reason I think that some people are very opposed to digital collage being included is that, along with thinking that it takes a lot less effort, and the whole argument is like you don't have to go hunting for materials, you don't have to make the things you have work the way that they come, because you can make all of these adjustments. But the other reason that people argue against it a lot is that I think that a lot of people have some confusion as to what is AI and what is still work that a person did using technology. Anyway, I hope that this does clear up some of that confusion and that it helps people understand why, in some ways, for what I'm doing right now at least, there really is no other option for me to use collage to make the work that I'm making without it being digital collage. So that is my take and explanation on analog versus digital collage. Like the video and follow for more. Thank you.